Welcome everyone. One moment, I will remove the logo. Welcome everyone to this week in Svelte. This is Friday 9th February 2024, and this is it's today installment of this week in Svelte. The agenda today will be the usual one. So we will talk about the changelog. We will have actually no quick fact and announcement. Actually, no, I will have a quick fact and announcement. And we will have a community showcase, a very special one, I dare to say. We will have a discussion, we will have a question and answer. Like, this will be basically a complete episode. You don't want to miss this. Share this with the world because we will talk about a lot of stuff. So let's start with the usual agenda. So with the changelog, and as usual, we are going to use the Svelte changelog, which is from one of the member of our community that put together this very cool project because it allows us to quickly scream over the week of progress that we made inside Svelte and SvelteKit. And I mean, this obviously help very much us that are presenting this content to you, but this will also help you. Like, if you want to stay up to date with Svelte and SvelteKit, you can just go to svelte-changelog.vercel.app and read about the changes in Svelte, in Svelte and SvelteKit. So let's start. As usual, we have a bunch of releases of Svelte 5 because it's under active development. Mostly there are fixes. So, for example, repair each block length mismatches during iteration. There's very technical stuff that, as a user of Svelte, you probably don't have to care about. There's definitely something that you need to care because it allows let directive on slot element, even in Svelte 5. So a slot will be deprecated because in favor of snippets, which is much better, in my opinion. But you can still use slot, and you can still use it with the let directive. A bunch of properties that were missing, for example, scroll end, event type, miter clip, arcs, and stroke line join. This is not the first time that we see this kind of stuff, and the reason because we've seen a bunch of these is because those are all properties of SVGs, which really it's a complete word above HTML. Is literally just a bunch of stuff. So it's just another language, basically. Bumped Zimmer frames resolve AST traversal related bug. Yeah, this is Zimmer frame is the tree worker that they are using to do the AST manipulation, and it's just a library from Rich Aris, but it's a very cool one. Bump Zimmer frame, run on destroy callback during server-side rendering. This is very interesting. Correctly determine binding scope of let directive. Only update lazy properties that actually have changed, so better performance. Handle nested script tag. Analyze group expression. This is all very cool stuff. You can now bind to open in a detail. Detail is, I don't know if you ever noticed, if you ever saw some of these, but details basically allow you to have a sort of drop down, like you can have detail and a summary and a list inside detail, and it will present to you with an open that you can click, and it will open the list. Very, very interesting HTML element. Add compiler error for each block mutation in runes mode. Compiler error can get annoying because obviously they get in the way to you shipping, but at the same time they are there to prevent you to ship broken code. So it's always good if you have more. Improve indexed each array reconciliation. This allows exporting props. Align before and after update behavior better with that in Svelte 4. And this is actually a bug that I opened because in Svelte 4, before update and after update would run regardless if you were using that function, that variable inside the template, and this was instead like in Svelte 5 up until to this very 23 years ago young fix. They were basically running only if you actually used that variable in the template. It's a minor thing, but it's a thing that it's best that like we have much more similar to Svelte 4, because while Svelte 5 it's still a major release, so they can have breaking changes. The more back compatibility we maintain, the better. And this is also something that I praised a lot about maintainers of Svelte, is that they are really caring about this. Like they could have probably just like shipped Svelte 5 as is and break everything and like don't care about Svelte 4. And they could have, like, if they had do that, they probably would have shipped way before. But they really care about the fact that you can update to Svelte 5 and just have everything work as before, which is something that is super cool. Let's move to the SvelteKit release, which are none. There's no SvelteKit release, which is fine because I mean they are now more focused on Svelte, so it's good. They did migrate, change Svelte migrate to don't downgrade version when bumping dependencies. So yep, it's some patch changes, but it's always good. So let's move to the second part, which is, let me show you the thing, the banner, which is quick fact and announcement. And the quick fact that I want to talk to you about is about Svelte Summit 2024, spring 2024. We have a new announcement for the Svelte Summit, and it will happen April 27 of 2024. So this is, for the moment, that's the only conference for Svelte, global conference for Svelte, and it will be virtual, even like for this time, but most likely there will be an in-person one for the fall, which is exciting. But I mean, in general, every Svelte Summit is exciting. And also, if you want, you can also submit a talk. We have our own like talk aggregator that Kevin, the factotum of Svelte Society, put together. So if you want to talk during Svelte Summit, feel free to submit a talk. You can log in with GitHub, and it will show you, like, it will give you like a title and an abstract, and then probably Kevin, together with the maintainers, will decide if and what talk to accept into the conference. Very excited about this. So this was the quick fact and announcement. And now there is a very exciting community showcase. And I will leave the stage to present you with, like, to let our guest introduce himself. So I will leave the stage and the new guest will join. And it's me! Yeah, today I will present you with a community showcase. The community showcase that I want to showcase to you is my library. Some of you may have already know about this, but it's one of my library, and in particular, this library, it's called SvelteKit View Transition. Now, I don't know if you are aware of these, but it's a new API that is landed on the browser, not on all browser. Like, the compatibility is not there yet. It's mostly Chromium-based browser. I think Safari has a bit of like in the newest version of Safari, you can use the vTransition API, but it's a very, very cool API because it really allows you to morph between two status on the page. And how it works is that, like, regardless of the new state, like, because, for example, it's similar to the flip technique, but it's similar to the flip technique, but it allows you to morph between two status in the DOM, regardless of, for example, if the element is in the same spot and something like that. It's a very cool API. Astro pioneered the usage of these, but we also get like something for these view transition API in SvelteKit. And I want to show you, like, the reason why I made these libraries, because Svelte maintainers, when creating these API, like, because they had to add a specific hook, which is called onNavigate, and when creating these API, they decided to keep it very, very low level, which is a good thing, and I will show you why. Because, like, you have to really be able to interact with part of the view transition to make it work. I prepared some example here, so let's see how it goes. So I want to show you, I have prepared these 6 example here. And these 6 example, and I'm refreshing because I will tell you why later. So, for example, let's see a very simple thing, right? And how to do it in native. So this is a very, very simple, and it's native in SvelteKit. So as you can see, like, I can click next, and if I click next, the page will slowly morph, like it will slowly fade into the new page, which is simple native next. If I click back, it will slowly move away and like bring back the old page, basically. So how to do it? First thing first, you have to import onNavigate, which is this new hook. And the reason because you need to use onNavigate instead of before navigate is because onNavigate will run after the load function of the next page, which is very important because, as I've said, like, when you click next, when you start a view transition, the browser will literally take a screenshot of the page and freeze everything. So given that load functions are generally very slow because you have to interact with the database, we have to interact to an API, an external API maybe. It's important that we are doing this as close as possible to the actual switch, and this is what onNavigate allows you to do. This onNavigate take a function as input, and here you can check if start view transition is in the document. And this is basically to do progressive enhancement, because if start view transition is not in the document, so if you're using Firefox, for example, we still want to navigate. We don't want to block the navigation. We don't want to error. And so if it's not in the document, just return, and that's it. But if it's in the document, then you can return a new promise. And this promise, you can get the resolver from the promise, and then you can start the view transition. The view transition will take a function, which is an async function. Inside this function, you can resolve, and then you can await complete that you get from onNavigate. Now, all of these is because basically when you return a promise, SvelteKit will await this promise before completing the navigation. And so this allows you inside the body of the promise to start the view transition. And after you start the view transition, this resolve, basically it's your way to telling Svelte, okay, you can go ahead and navigate. Once you tell SvelteKit that can navigate, then you can await complete, and this is SvelteKit telling you, okay, now I've finished to navigate. So this complete promise will be resolved whenever the page is you're actually on the next page. So once all of these finish, basically the browser will do its magic, and in this case, its magic is just slowly morphing next to back and back to next. And this is how I slow down the animation. So you can target these directly in CSS. And this is also one of the reasons why I was refreshing, is because like the moment you say $root, this is basically global style. So I have other kind of stuff in other examples, and these all apply together. So it gets a bit tricky to do it in CSS because they have to be global. So if you want different route navigation inside different portion of the page, you have to be creative. So for the moment, I am just like leaning to, okay, I will just refresh and that's it. So this was a simple example, and this is how you will do it natively in SvelteKit. So let's see how you will do it with my library. You import setup view transition from SvelteKit view transition. You call setup view transition, and that's it. It's very easy because I mean this is a very easy navigation, so it's very easy. So you don't have to do any extra step. You just do setup view transition, and all this stuff is basically handled by my library. So this was very simple. Again, let's try to do something a bit more complex, right? So we have the how to do in SvelteKit sliding. So in this case, I want to do a more complex animation. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to click on 2, and like as you can see, like I'm clicking on 3 and it slides away from the side, and clicking on 4 and it slides away. But interesting part is that I click on 2, it slides back from the other side. So how can I achieve this? Let's see how it can work inside SvelteKit without my library. You only obviously already, yeah, you still have these on Navigate. I have this list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I simply create a header, and I create the list inside the header with the links to the item. Inside this page, I just have the params page. I don't care about that. It's just to show you a different thing. And one interesting bit is that, as you can see, like here, I'm adding a view transition name of header on the header. If I remove these, you can see that it will slide together with the page, as it's not something that I want. So that's why I added this. And this view transition name is basically to tell the browser to take a different screenshot just of this part. And so in this case, like it stays where it is because the browser will take a different screenshot just of this part of the browser, and all the rest will slide. I have my slots and I have my animation here, which again, it's pretty simple. Like you can target the view transition new root, and this is the name of the view transition. The root is the general one. If I wanted to animate the header, for example, I could replace root with header here. And I'm telling that I want an animation of slide of 1 second. And if we go to see the animation, I'm going from a transform of var from and to a transform translate of var2. And the reason why this works is because like those are literally images. So imagine that you have an image of the DOM and an image of the DOM that will come. By transforming them, I am basically moving an image outside of the frame, and then I am animating that transform from outside of the frame to inside the frame. And I'm using CSS variables because it's easy to set up. And so the way I've set up everything, just I'm saying that the view transition new, and this is the new image of the DOM basically, will have a from of 100%. So it will start outside of the viewport, and it will move to 0%. So it will move to 0%. And the view transition old, which is the screenshot that the browser take, will go from 0%, because it will stay where it starts, to negative 100%. And given that these will happen together, basically it will do this. And it will seems that like they are translating away. The interesting bit, as I was saying, is the fact that when you move back, you actually want to move the opposite side. Because if I remove these, for example, uh, what happened is that like I move to 3 and 3 comes from the side, and when I move to 2, 2 comes from the same side, which is not very natural. So let's revert back to this. But now, how can I know if I'm navigating back? It's very tricky, right? Now, the way that you can do it is you can interact with the DOM before the view transition starts, as I was saying. And this is where the fact that you have such a low level API in SvelteKit can really help you. Because inside my on navigator, I'm always doing this check for accessibility. I'm always returning a promise. But now, before I start the view transition, I can also do some other kind of stuff. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm using the to and from parameters from the navigation object. And this is basically SvelteKit that is telling you, okay, I'm navigating and I'm navigating to this page from this page. And with these, basically you can access the parameters of the page. So in this case, I'm navigating to slide native /1, and this page has a parameter. And so what I'm doing is, if I'm finding the index inside this array of the params of 2, and so if I'm navigating to 3, for example, these will be 0, 1, 2. I'm finding the index of the from. So if I'm navigating to 3 from 4, for example, this will be like 3. The index will be 3. And then I'm just saying, okay, if the to index is less than from index, add a class to the root element, to the HTML element of back. And I can target this class inside my CSS with .back.root. And this means that when there is a back navigation, I'm actually overriding the variables. And so now it moved in the opposite direction. And one interesting bit is that if you want to do this, you also have to get back the transition object from start with transition. You have to await that the transition finish, because it's finished. And once it's finished, you have to remove the class list. Otherwise, like, it will stay there, and every other navigation will still use the back navigation. So you have to remove it. Again, this is not something super complex, but it probably gets pretty annoying if you have to write every time. So let's see how it works in my, and as you can see, like, it actually like keeps sliding. Let's see how it works in my navigation. So it's SvelteKit view transition slide. Let me do a bit of refresh. So the thing is the same. So what is happening is the same, but let's see how you can do these with my library. So you have a layout, and again, you have the setup view transition that you have to call every time. And from the setup view transition, you get a couple of things. You get a transition, and this is an action. And you get classes. These classes basically allow you to do the same thing that I did, but every time. So you get the navigation object, you still get the to and the from. So the logic is the same, but instead of automatically adding the class to the root element and then remove it, you can return an array of strings, and what you return from here gets added as a class to the root element. So this is the same logic as before, but it's much tighter because it's abstracted away. Like, I'm doing basically the same thing under the hood, but yeah, the logic is the same. Interestingly, like, I don't have to use style : view transition name, but I can use the transition action, and I can pass a string, and this will basically have the same effect of using style : view transition name on the header. So this again works exactly the same, and even the style is exactly the same. So it's just change how everything works. It's much tighter, much more readable, I would say. So let's go back home. Let me refresh, and let's do something even more complex. So this is something that is very usual to do with view transition, and it's you have a list, and you have a list of elements, and if you click one, you go to the detail of that list. So we have our usual list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I click, as you can see, like the one grows into place. And if I click back, I click 3, it grows into place. So we are on the new page, but like I can keep track of where I clicked and why it moved there. And this is how to do it in native. And this gets pretty tricky, let me tell you. And the reason why it gets pretty tricky is because, okay, first thing first, we have a couple of ways of doing it. The view transition name has to be unique. So you cannot put view transition name item, for example, and just deal with it. Has to be unique, because if there are multiple items on the page, like the browser does not know where to take a screenshot. So it wants to take a screenshot of all the things, of all the different view transition name, but they has to be unique. So the first instinct might be to just do this. So you loop over each item and you add a view transition name of item. So one will have a view transition name of one list, and two will have a view transition name of two, etc. And in the new page, what you do is you do h2 style view transition name of $page params page, right? So this will work. It's unique. It's yeah, I will actually share with you this view transition in Svelte Lab. I will have down that later, but here you have it. So this will actually work, and I will show you. So if I remove these and I remove these, and let me add a comment here and a comment here. And if I remove these and I add a comment to the proper one, so this will work, and it will even work in a certain way better, because if I do click and I go back, it will also slide back to its place. So if I click 5 and I do back, it will also slide back to its place. The problem with this is that it's not very efficient, for one reason, because if you have like 200 elements on the page, the browser will take a screenshot of those 200 elements, and then only one will actually animate. So this is a bunch of resources that are not very like you are really clogging the browser, and it gets really noticeable if you have long list. So this is not the recommended way. So let's move back to the other implementation. And before, I don't know what I did. Let's move back to the other implementation here too. Okay, so now we are back to the working implementation. And so another idea that you might have is, okay, I have a list of link, and on click, I want to set up my view transition name to item. And this will actually work, kinda, because like this will work. The problem with this is that you might have multiple elements that needs to animate. So let's say that you click on the link, and every link has also an image, and the image will go to its place, and the title will go to this other place. This is something that you can do with the ViewTransition API. By using this click, you are actually like preventing yourself to do this, because basically you will have to also change the image related to this link. So it gets messy. You can maybe work around and use query selector inside here to get the image associated with these, but it can get messy. So I think the proper solution and the more scalable solution would be to do something like this. So you loop over the list, the items, and then you can add the data transition item and data transition name of item. So for example, if you also have an image, you can have a data transition of item and a data transition name of image item, for example. And then what you can do is, before calling start view transition, what you can do is you can use query selector all. So you query data transition to 2 params page. So you are moving to 1, you fetch from the page all the elements that have a data transition of 1, equal to 1. Then you loop over them, and then you apply the style of view transition name element dataset transition name. So like this will have a transition of item, the image can have a transition of image, etc. And this also simplify greatly what you have on the other side, because you just have a style view transition name of item, and it works. Now, this is the more complex example, and as you can see, like it really gets like the logic is very separated, is not well contained. And again, for example, I think there is a way to also allow for the back navigation to slide back in, but I mean, it gets really, really complicated. So while I was working on this demo, I just gave up because, I mean, I was not bothered to do all of this, like to find a way to do it. I want to show it now how to do the same with my library. So with my library, what you can do is, and let's move back home and let's go to the view transition list. So this behaved the same, as you can see. This is literally behaving the same for the moment. And like this is how you would do the first one, like when you use the item as a transition name. So you can set up the transition, you get the transition action, and you can do a use transition item, and then you, on the other side, you have the item in the H2. This is the wrong one because you are literally using the transition name for everyone. So I will not bother to show you. Like it will work, but it's not the performant one. But then, if you want, you can do this, which is much better because you can add a transition name of item, just like we did before. And then you have this should apply function. And this should apply function must return a Boolean. So it takes a navigation object. So I can check if navigation.to.params.page is equal to item. And I return this. And basically now only the item that is actually navigating. So if I click on 3, if I'm navigating to the 3 page, only 3 will get the item transition name. Sorry. And so this is very simple. All the logic is inside the A tag. And an extra tip, like you can very easily also manage the back navigation. How? There is another function which is called apply immediately. Apply immediately, because again, this is applying the class just on navigation. And apply immediately, it's actually being called when you are navigating to the page. So when you're navigating back to the page, this function is called, and if you return true, it will immediately apply the view transition name that you want before the transition finish, and then remove it when the transition finish. So to do this, you literally have just to move this to a from. So in this case, when I'm navigating from this page back to this other page, it's calling this function, is seeing that I'm navigating from 1, and if the item is 1, it will apply the class. So once I click back, it will actually slide back into place. If I click on 3 and I click back, it will slide back into place. So this is just like, this is the things that most commonly the view transition API are used for. So that's why I wanted to show you. But I do really think that this is the way to, not because it's my library, I promise, but I really do think that this is the way to create a view transition inside your library if you are using SvelteKit. Um, so this was our community showcase, and I will go back I will go back to being a host and not a guest. So bye bye. Thank you our guest for showing this. Joking aside, uh, this was my library. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a spin if you are working on something that can work with transition. And one important point is never make the transition the whole point of your website, because first, it's not well supported. Secondly, make sure that you respect the user preference. So if the user has want reduce motion, pay attention to not do like magic stuff with with your view transition, because it can really like worsen the experience of your users. So that was it. Now let me actually change. I will remove my. Oh, I will go big screen. Sorry for the big face. Because now it's another moment in the live stream, and it's the moment of the discussion. And we have, in my opinion, a very interesting discussion here. And it's a question that a lot of people ask in Discord. And the question is like, should I use Svelte or SvelteKit? And it's a really interesting one, right? Because, I mean, it's almost like, should I use React or Next.js? Should I use Vue or Next? Like, both are valid ways of doing things. And I will tell you my answer to this question. And if you want to join the discussion, feel free to. There is a link in the description that you can join to join StreamYard, and you can literally be on stage with me. Or feel free to comment inside the comment section, because I want this to be a discussion. So my answer to this is that you should use SvelteKit. Now, before you take your pitchfork and try to run with my house for my house, because why should I use a very complex? I agree. Like, okay, for very simple use cases, probably Vite plus Velt is totally fine. If you are building a single page application behind a login, it's probably fine to use Vite plus Svelte. So like, I will not like stop you if you want to use Vite plus Svelte. But the thing that make me like go toward SvelteKit is that in SvelteKit you can very easily create a single page application too. So you can use SvelteKit to build a single page application. You can use SvelteKit just like you would use Vite plus Svelte. But on the other side, if you have later in time a need to actually have more like, I don't know, you want server-side rendering, you want a better loading experience and stuff like that, it's just one config away. So that's why I prefer to use SvelteKit over Svelte plus Vite, because I think that you can achieve the same thing, and you have a much broader um, spectrum of stuff that you can do once you want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, it's fine. You can avoid doing that. So that's my thought, and we can move on if no one has anything to say. But if you have some questions, some thought on these, feel free to write them in the comment. And I think there is AIM, which is trying to connect. I don't know if it actually connected or he actually connected and want to talk. And Stalky, it's also agreeing with me. There isn't really much reason to not use SvelteKit. Completely agree. I don't know, Aim, if you are listening, I think you need to give permission to StreamYard to talk, and I will gladly let you join on stage once you do that. That said, yeah, I agree. There's really no reason to use Vit plus Belt unless you really want a super simple experience and don't want to think about SvelteKit at all. I don't know why, but I agree that you should use SvelteKit in my opinion. That said, we can move to question and answer. And I will share my screen again in a moment because the question that some people ask is, how can I render a fallback children with snippets? Now, in theory, the answer is like this, and I will show you. So, bad child. Svelte, because the actual in Svelte 5 to actually do provide a fallback to a snippet, what you should do, as you may know, basically the way you would have a default slot is with a prop children. So we can do const equal props, and then you can destructure children, and then you can do, I don't know, strong render children. Now, obviously, these will have a problem because if I now import bad child here, and I don't provide a fallback, this will error out because it's trying to call children, and children is not there. So the one way you can do it, given that children is just a props, is this. You can do if children do this, else do something else. Default fallback. Let me add an HR here just to separate them. So I have default fallback here. And I mean, this looks fine, right? But maybe it gets tedious, like you have to write a bunch of if else and stuff like that. So one, in my opinion, better way to do this is this way. So given that children is just a problem, and given that every snippet that you define, it's actually a sort of variable inside your scope, what you can do is you can use the children equal fallback, in this case, to basically provide a fallback for your children. So if children is undefined, it will be assigned the value of fallback. And in this case, fallback, it's still a snippet. So it will render, you can render children without checking if children is actually there. And this, again, obviously, it's not that different. Maybe it reads a bit better, in my opinion. But this also means that if you want a generic fallback, and if you have more than one, so let's say that you have children and, I don't know, header, and you have a footer, these are all snippets that you want to bring. So header and footer. The problem with this is that you can have the same fallback in case fallback equal fallback. By doing this, you are providing the same fallback to every children, But if you have something like, for example, inside here I can define a snippet footer slash snippet. This is the footer. So it's very natural in my opinion. And if I wanted to do the same on the other side, it will get a bit more messy because you have to check for footer and header, and you have to check if, like, if sorry, if header, and if header, then render header, otherwise render default fallback. Like, it gets a bit messier. While this, I think it's pretty clean. You have your fallbacks defined, and you can even move these below, for example. So I think this will be a pattern that we will see with Svelte 5. So if this was your question, this is your answer. And Stolky is saying, like, I'm not a fan of pulling the fallback up into the script. To me, it's a bit harder to follow. Maybe it's a bit harder to follow because, like, you may see, okay, where is the fallback, and you have to scream over the file to see the fallback. I think we will probably get used to it because, like, that's just how snippet works. But we will see. Like, I think I will probably use this because I think it's a bit cleaner, but it's also up to preference. And yes, I also think I mean, I think maintainers are also thinking of this solution. And even just doing something like this would help probably. And this is not something that you can do now, but they are thinking of adding this. So yeah, we will see. I think this is something that probably they want to address, and they will probably do it before the official release. So we will see. Yeah, exactly. There's still an open issue for more syntax. And someone is also asking, wait, where's Enrico? And the reason is Enrico is not there is because he knew too much. So I had to get rid of it. No, I'm just joking, obviously. Enrico, like, it's helping me behind like to organize all stuff, but it's a bit that is not able to make it to the stream. So we all miss Enrico, but for the moment, you have to stay with me. So I think that was it for today. We finished our agenda. We had a full episode today, so we basically uh, like checked every box of our agenda, and we also we are on time. We are 50 minutes in the stream, so thank you everyone who followed. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed our guest. um, yeah, and tuning in right as the stream is ending. Great. I mean, it will go live immediately after we close, so you can rewatch it, and you can also comment and tell me if you if you learned something from today. So thank you everyone for coming, and we will see. I will see you next week, which is Friday, and I can never Friday 16. And have a good Valentine. Bye bye everyone. Thank you.